Everybody chill out.
I ain't even done nothing.
Okay,
Y'all are getting on to me for bull.
Amy.
Many people subtly believed Tammy Slaton wouldn't survive certain circumstances, yet she has. Viewers were introduced to a lady bound not only in a body weighing more than 700 pounds, but also in years of emotional trauma, public criticism, drug issues, and deep-seated pain when 1,000-Pound Sisters debuted in 2020. Her darkest moments were caught on camera, including the oxygen tubes, hospital stays, violent altercations, and her family's panic when doctors said she might not survive. However, spectators were unaware that years later, following a stunning 500-pound weight loss that silenced skeptics and shocked critics, Tammy would have to fight one of the most destabilizing battles of her life. Not with her body, but with her mind. Tammy made one of the most open confessions she has ever made on television during a recent episode of 1,000-Pound Sisters. Food wasn't the point. It has nothing to do with surgery. It has nothing to do with online trolls. It was about losing control of her own thoughts, which was even more terrifying. Tammy had been on several prescription drugs for years to treat her depression and other illnesses. Her medicines were adjusted for a body under tremendous physical stress when she was at her heaviest, weighing over 700 pounds. The strain of extreme obesity was affecting her hormone levels, metabolism, and organ function. Doses that were suitable for that size and condition were prescribed by doctors, and those dosages were required at the time. Then everything was different. Even longtime fans found it difficult to believe Tammy's body changed after bariatric surgery, rigorous rehabilitation, lifestyle adjustments, and unwavering perseverance. 1 pound after another was removed. She was able to move again. She walked on her own. She started to travel. She began to live outside the boundaries of her former constraints. She declared with pride that she had shed 500 pounds by April 2025. Her weight dropped from almost 700 pounds to about half of that, making it one of the most spectacular transformations ever shown on reality TV. Although she appeared smaller on the outside, something within her was subtly slipping out of balance. Suddenly, the amounts of medications that were once suitable for a 700-pound physique were now too high for her much smaller frame. Significant weight loss affects blood chemistry, fat distribution, metabolic processes, and the absorption and circulation of drugs in addition to changing garment sizes. Certain medications may become more concentrated in the blood when fat mass dramatically declines. One can overdo something that was previously therapeutic. It took Tammy a while to realize that anything was amiss. She initially felt off, sentimental, agitated. "I'm overwhelmed." She talked about experiencing worry, rage, grief, and confusion all at once, sometimes all in the same hour. Even the slightest arguments would get out of hand. Small annoyances felt explosive. Then the outages started. During her confessional, Tammy disclosed, "I would black out and say things when I was getting angry or mad. Although it wasn't me, it was me. There is no other way for me to convey it." Viewers were shocked only by that statement. Tammy's admission that she didn't feel like herself was extremely frightening to someone who has always been direct and forthright. She wasn't talking about being moody. She was talking about losing control. Medical professionals claim that incorrect dosage of psychiatric drugs can result in severe mood instability. Bipolar disorder, formerly known as manic depression, is defined by the Mayo Clinic as a mental health illness marked by severe mood fluctuations, from extreme depressive lows to euphoric highs, mania or hypomania. Tammy described what she believed she was going through as being in a manic depression state. For her, the experience was terrifyingly genuine, regardless of whether it was formally labeled as bipolar disease or medication-induced mood instability. She spoke of being overcome by every emotion imaginable. The tension increased, the arguments grew more heated, and her ex-girlfriend Andrea Dalton was the one who was most immediately affected. Tammy's erratic behavior started to damage the relationship behind closed doors. According to reports, Andrea lost it and told Tammy that if the unpredictability didn't stop, she couldn't go on. That ultimatum turned into a wake-up call for Tammy. She might have attempted to avoid it, but it made her face it. Personality wasn't the issue here. It has nothing to do with being obstinate. Fame wasn't the point. There was a medical issue. Tammy saw her physician. Blood tests were performed. Her prescriptions were examined. They looked at her past weight. Additionally, a crucial error was discovered by the results. Her medication levels were far higher than her present body weight. She clarified that her prescription was too high for her body size because it was prescribed for her larger frame. The pieces suddenly started to fit together. The restlessness, the fluctuations in emotions, the overwhelming intensity. It was more than just interpersonal trouble or stress from celebrity. Her body was overstimulated chemically. 5 prescriptions that she no longer needed were immediately taken away by the doctors. Others were drastically reduced. It was a drastic change that probably ought to have occurred gradually as her weight decreased, but drastic changes can occasionally proceed more quickly than medical recalibrations. The realization was both a relief and a fear for Tammy. She realized how close she had been to losing all stability, which was terrifying. It was a relief to have an answer at last. However, changing medicine is rarely a quick fix. The body and brain need to adjust when dosages vary. Levels of neurotransmitters fluctuate, sleep habits change. Before stabilizing, emotional regulation may go worse for a while. Tammy acknowledged that she still doesn't feel quite like herself. Her new baseline is being learned. Something that is rarely covered in stories about drastic weight loss is revealed in this part of Tammy's journey. The public witnesses the celebration through the inspirational headlines, the triumphant social media posts, and the before and after pictures. Massive weight loss, however, is a complete body change that impacts all systems, including the neurological, mental, endocrine, and cardiovascular. Managing medications becomes complicated. Hormones change, compounds are released into the bloodstream by stored fat. In essence, the body relearns how to work. It might be destabilizing for someone who has experienced depression in the past. After Tammy recounted her tale, her fans, who had been watching her suffer for years, showed their unwavering support. Comments from viewers who had made similar medicine mistakes flooded TLC's official social media accounts. After losing weight, some people reported that their thyroid medication was excessively high. Others reported experiencing agitation and anxiety when their antidepressant dosages grew too high. One viewer said, "I'm glad she's taking all the therapy advice and getting the physical side looked at as well." Something significant emerged from the response. Tammy's vulnerability is assisting others in identifying their own warning indicators. Tammy has frequently been shown as obstinate, uncooperative, or aggressive since the start of 1,000-Pound Sisters. She was called challenging by critics. Her motivation was questioned by some observers. However, some of that story is reframed by this discovery. It demonstrates the true interdependence between mental and physical health. The emotional toll is tremendous when someone is dealing with excessive obesity, despair, addiction, and public scrutiny all at once. When you combine that with incorrect medicine dosage, the outcomes might rapidly worsen. The victorious turning point in Tammy's life was meant to be her 500-pound weight loss. And it did in a lot of ways. She became self-sufficient. She was able to move again. She started mending relationships. She entered a version of herself that she had previously believed was unattainable. However, change does not immediately make the past disappear. Just because physical weight goes away doesn't mean emotional wounds do. Losing weight can actually make unresolved trauma more obvious. It is no longer numb by food. It is no longer distracted by physical limits. It's made more intense by fame. The emotional breakdown wasn't a sign of failure for Tammy. It was an indication that she needed to recalibrate her brain and body. The fact that she decided not to conceal it is possibly the most potent aspect of this tale. Drama is frequently the lifeblood of reality television, but this disagreement wasn't made up. This woman was admitting that she needed assistance. She went to doctors. She let the cameras capture her weakness. "I'm not okay," she acknowledged. Just that acknowledgement is a sign of progress. Tammy disregarded medical advice years ago. She resisted attempts at intervention. She silenced anyone discussing therapy. She is currently taking an active role in her own stabilization process. She's going to therapy. She is keeping an eye on her medicines. She's talking more honestly about her stress levels and triggers. She is admitting that emotional and physical wellness are equally important. She is also broadening her story beyond weight reduction by doing this. The 700-pound Tammy Slayton is no longer the same person. She is more than just Amy's sister who is often at odds with her. She is more than just a reality TV star or a meme that goes viral. She is a person negotiating the difficult fallout from profound bodily and mental change. There will be bumps in the road ahead. It takes time to change medication. It takes time to become emotionally stable. After tumultuous times, relationships need to rebuild trust. However, for the first time in a long time, Tammy seems determined to deal with the underlying cause of the issue instead of just treating its symptoms. The significance of her story has changed. The question of whether she can reduce weight is no longer relevant. It concerns her ability to keep equilibrium in her relationships, emotions, and chemistry. And if anything, Tammy Slayton's experience has shown that she is considerably more resilient than many initially thought. A new chapter in her path is marked by this realization about her mental health, one that might end up being more significant than any number on a scale. Because breathing alone isn't enough to survive. It has to do with stability. Clarity is key. It's about reclaiming your identity after feeling as though you've vanished. Furthermore, Tammy Slayton's struggle to regain her identity is far from over. As Tammy Slayton continues to get used to her new drug schedule, it's becoming more and more obvious that the most significant change in her life is occurring silently, inwardly, and in ways that are only partially visible on camera. Millions of people may have witnessed the physical struggle, but the psychological fallout from shedding 500 pounds is even more intricate, multi-layered, and emotionally intense. When a person spends years in a body that restricts their freedom of movement, independence, and social interaction, that body transforms from mere physical bulk into their identity. Over 700 pounds was more than simply a physical condition to Tammy. It influenced her self-perception, how she dealt with pain, how she interacted with others, and how she regarded herself. Comfort came from food. Protection came from isolation. Being defensive was armor. Then, the burden started to subside. Rapid, drastic weight reduction frequently leaves a void in one's identity. The intellect cannot keep up with the speed at which the person in the mirror changes. Traditional coping strategies are no longer effective.